I'm here today with Megan, and she has a story to share with us that is pretty interesting, pretty enlightening for those of us who've been following the Boyd missionary fam story. And she's just going to share a little bit. We're just going to have a conversation and share a little bit about what she experienced with a certain individual that the Boyd family knows very well because they were attacked by him. So I'm just going to ask you, Megan, just share your story. What brought you to Montana last month?
Well, me and my husband were supposed to go to Europe, and that didn't pan out. We were stuck at the airport and trying to figure out what are we going to do. So we ended up taking a road trip. So he said Mount Rushmore, and I said, well, what about Yellowstone? Because it's a little bit closer, and it's a long drive with our dog in the car. So um, we decided to head that way. And I was just kind of booking everything along the way because, everything was last minute. I had found this little place that was about an hour outside of the park because everything was booked up near the park and not a lot of dog friendly places. So when we travel with the dog, have to make sure everything's dog friendly, pet friendly. So I find this place, it says it's pet friendly. Okay. So I book it. There was an extra $50 for a pet deposit. So I was like, oh, I didn't know that, but okay. He obviously isn't the most friendly. When we were pulling into the property, I did notice how this dirt road with potholes. And I thought, well, that's not very welcoming for a hotel. But there's all these no trespassing signs everywhere. And I thought, you've got a hotel, you've got a convenience shop and a bait shop. And you're basically not welcoming people from the second they pull into your driveway. That seems a little bit weird. The room was nice and everything seemed to be going fine until the next morning when I went to check out. And my husband took the dog down and was walking him around while I loaded up the car. And I got down there, got everything packed up, and I thought, I'm going to take one last look around, make sure I didn't forget anything. So I went back up and the door was wide open. So I hollered down to my husband, did you leave the door open? And he said, no, but the maintenance guy was up there cleaning rooms. He must have opened it up. And I thought, well, that's kind of strange. We haven't checked out yet, but no, I guess that's the way they do it here. That's fine. So I went downstairs and uh, went to hand him my key. And he was this, big burly guy, a little bit intimidating. But I handed him the key and I said, I just wanted to apologize. My husband spilled a little Dr. Pepper on the sheets. And he just kind of immediately started in with an attitude and was like, oh, well, good, because judging by all that dog hair, I assumed it was dog pee. I said, nope, not dog pee, just Dr. Pepper. And then he took my key and then he said, let me ask you something. And no offense, which is kind of hilarious considering how angry he got. Do you really think it's appropriate or acceptable to bring your dog in and let them get on my bed? Well, we paid a pet deposit and he sleeps in bed with us. Like it says it's pet friendly. I don't understand. Like, is there a problem? He just continued on how saying I was disrespectful and we're a bunch of dirty pigs because we let our dogs on the bed. And, at this point I was like, he's kidding, right? Because like no one's ever come at me like this before, especially when I was being apologetic about, a mark on the sheets. So I even said to him, like, are you being serious? And he's like, yeah, I'm being serious. What is wrong with you that you think you can just come into my hotel and let your dog on my sheets and you're going to ruin my washing machine with all that dog hair. And now I'm going to have to wash the bedding. And I kind of stopped for a second, like, wait, he needs to wash the bedding anyway. Am I sleeping in a hotel where they don't wash the bedding? And, before I can even like really think this and get this out there, like he just continued to scream. Like I didn't even know what to do. I was still pretty calm at this point because I just like, it's just this awkward, uncomfortable feeling of like, why is this guy screaming at me? Like I didn't do anything wrong, you know? So eventually, after he's screaming at me for a while, telling me that I should pay more than the pet deposit because I'm going to ruin his washing machine, my husband had walked up because he's wondering what's taken so long. And so I said to my husband, do you hear the way he's talking to me? And at this point, he was yelling and he's starting to swear at me because I said, don't worry, we won't be back. And he had said, you sure as hell won't. And I just thought, what is this attitude? We've stayed at Holiday Inns with our dog several times and never had anything like this. They've always been kind and friendly, like literally pet friendly, unlike this guy. He says, well, yeah, I'm going to talk to you like this because you guys are, disgusting, disrespectful pigs. And we left the room very clean. I even wiped down the soap scum from the bathtub, because that's the kind of person I am. I leave a place clean. Our dog is very clean. He doesn't chew things up. He, yeah, there's a little pet hair there. Oh my goodness, not the end of the
To
world.
be expected.
Right. You would think. This doesn't seem like a big deal. None of the other hotels have complained, but he continued to yell and scream at me. And so I said to my husband, can you grab my phone? Because I want to record this guy. And he says, forget it. He's obviously nuts. Let's just go. I was just, I was still dumbfounded at this point. Like, I can't, is this really happening? And the whole time I was inching closer and closer and just kind of towering over me, like trying to intimidate me. And so at this point, I felt kind of unsafe. And my husband said, let's just get out of here. So I started heading for the door. He threatened to call the police. And because he said he's buddies with the deputy, and he's going to call the police department, and he's going to get them down there and issue me a no trespass and get me arrested for trespassing. I said, we have a right to be here. We booked a reservation. And he says, I want you off my property. You've trashed my property. You need to get out of here before I call the police on you. And then he continued to scream at me as I'm getting towards the car. And at this point, I said, wow, you are an absolute psychopath, because I've never encountered anyone who's like coming at me over a little bit of dog hair,
Right.
And so he's like, oh, I'm a psychopath. Then he starts going off on me again and yelling and swearing more. And my husband's like, let's just go. Let's just go. Like, this guy's obviously crazy. I don't want to deal with cops today. Let's just go. So I left there, and I just thought, what was all of that? He was trying to intimidate me. He was trying to start a fight. I've never been in a situation where I feel like someone was trying to start a fight over nothing. At this time, I didn't know he was the owner. I thought he was a maintenance man. I'm going to look this guy up because the owner should know what kind of guy he has working for him. And when I Googled him, the first thing that popped up with a picture of him was this article about these missionaries he attacked. And I thought, that sounds about right. Because this guy's just always looking for a fight. The way he behaves, I feel like, he came at you with what I've described before as demonic rage, because he had, like, his face was red. He's coming at you. He's hovering over you like this. He's trying to intimidate you. He's trying to start a fight. I definitely felt like I was in danger. And I thought, if he's going to be this problematic over a little bit of dog hair, what happens if someone comes in here and they're an actual problem? What happens if someone puts a stain on the floor or something? Is he gonna attack them? So yeah, I was looking over these articles, and I was very disappointed that he attacked somebody. It's obvious because the attitude this guy has, that he's the problem, and that they are the ones that end up going to jail. And I just thought, that's just wrong. That's just so wrong. And someone needs to stand up to this guy. And what are you going to do if this police department is obviously corrupt enough that they're going to take this guy's side? They probably weren't the first. I probably wasn't the last. I'm sure this guy's had run-ins with a lot of people.
So demonic rage is how you describe him.
Yeah.
He came after you. You paid a pet deposit, $50, which I doubt his sheets are even worth $50. So if he trashes them, it should cover that. But he's going to lash out for dog hair and a little bit of Dr. Pepper. Yeah. You label this as kind of like a verbal assault. Yeah. So would you still classify it as that?
Yeah, absolutely. The way he came at me, I've never been spoken to like that, ever. I've had people assault me in the past, and they never talked to me like that. It was quite the experience. So
were you fearful for your life in any way, shape, or form, or fearful for your well-being?
Yeah, I did feel like I was in danger. Absolutely. The way he was towering over me, and it kept coming closer and closer. But I thought, there's no way this guy's going to attack me over dog hair. Like, it's not logical.
Right.
But
right.
I don't know. This guy's got some problems.
Are you sure that the man who confronted you about the dog hair on the sheets was indeed Brad Terrell?
100%. When I Googled and looked up his picture, big guy with kind of grayish hair, that was definitely him. So that was definitely him. And from the videos I've seen, because I was able to watch some of the videos that they were able to catch with the lapel cams from the police officers, and, hearing his voice and seeing some of those videos, 100% that was the guy. Okay. No doubt.
Okay. So I'm going to read you a quote really quick. We got this quote from someone who is a neighbor to Brad. who is actually fearful to be identified. And he is not the only one. And I want you to see if this sounds like him. So the other day I had a run-in with Brad. He was driving past my driveway as I was driving out with typical fashion, giving me this hard, aggressive look. I put up my hands as if to say, what? He jumped out of his truck, came towards me. I rolled down my passenger window and my wife started filming him with her phone. He saw the camera and slowed down. He began to argue with us, yelling, but holding back because we were filming. He definitely has anger issues and no common sense. Needless to say, conversation went nowhere. And I said we were done and walked away. My wife remembered him repeatedly saying that he was friends with the sheriff. So I heard you mention that too. Yeah.
He mentioned it several times. He's buddies with the sheriff's department and the deputy, and I need to watch my back. So yeah, that definitely sounds like him.
Watch your back. He wants you to watch your back. That sounds like a threat. So
I definitely felt threatened.
Yeah. And were you fearful to call authorities in that situation? Because obviously, if you thought that something was going to happen to you, you might want to call, for backup. You might want to call for someone to come, bring the situation down and to defend you. When he mentioned that, did that prevent you from calling authorities in any way?
It did, because my first thought was like, sure, let the cops come down. They can see what a psycho this guy is. But then I thought, this is a small town. I don't know if he really is buddies with these guys. What if it turns around on us and then we end up in jail for doing absolutely nothing? And I said, I've lived a clean life. Speeding ticket is the worst you're going to ever find on me. And I just didn't want to get involved. And my husband was like, he's crazy. Let's go. Like, I don't want to deal with this. I'll leave him some nasty reviews and call hotels.com and tell them, this is probably not a guy you want on there. I definitely felt like, my first thought was, yeah, let him come down here. They'll see that they'll be on my side. But then I thought, yeah, what if it turns sour? Maybe later on I can make a police report or something just so there's some information on this guy. And then when I read that article, I was like, they're not going to take my side. It's pretty obvious.
The body cam footage is scary because it shows that there's corruption within their department. And then I fear for what would have happened to you had you called them. So kind of glad you didn't, kind of glad your husband got you out of there in time for sure. Yeah. I'm glad you're safe. So many people that live locally to Brad are scared to come forward. They have video evidence. They have Ring doorbell evidence, and they're afraid to come forward for their lives, for their safety. So that's a scary place
and
to be.
I don't blame him. Yeah. If he'll go to rage so fast over a little bit of dog hair, what would he do on something substantial? I think those people are right to be in fear for their lives, because it's a matter of time before this guy kills somebody, or if if he hasn't already. That's just my opinion, and that's there. I have no proof of anything, but if he's this dangerous over something little, I would be scared at a real situation with this guy.
He sounds like a piece of work, and man, I would love to come across him, because I would love to give him a piece of my mind after everything I've seen and everything I'm watching him get away with, and their crooked cops there as well.
If he wants to say anything about our encounter, I'm sure he has a security camera in that convenience store where most of this took place. And if he wants to go ahead and reveal that, it's not going to make him look good. So he's probably already deleted it, but there should be evidence there, if it doesn't make him look bad, but I'm guessing that will never come forward. So
probably not.
Thank you.
Probably not, but I might ask him about it and see if he's willing to share that with us as proof of your encounter, of his innocence and your encounter.
Yeah, good luck.
But I'm sure that will never see the light of day. I thank you so much for stepping out. And I know that having some distance between you and Brad probably helps matters, with you coming forward, but I am thankful for you. And I wish more people had courage like you to do what's right, despite any kind of kickback they might receive for speaking out. So thank you so much. Yeah.